Okay, we're live.
Okay then. Welcome to the Heritage and Townscape Committee on the 18th of March 2026. Chair's opening remarks. The only opening remark I'd like to make is that I'm collecting some Asian hornet lures on Sunday, and I'm collecting more than I need. I'm going to suggest one goes to the Jubilee Centre. And if anybody else wants to take one, it doesn't need like one per garden. They're not traps to catch and kill. They're traps so that you catch the hornet. You then call somebody, so they're actually monitored. They put a little marker on, a little an air tag on it, and they track it to where it lives. They can destroy the nest, because basically they destroy our bees. That's the only opening remark, and I can sort of say that because I'm chairman. Right, if we can move on to apologies for absence received. We have Dean Marie, and we have Councillor Dean Marie and Councillor Paul Carter have sent in their apologies. And moving on to item number 3, declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. We don't have any, and I don't think we have anything there, so we'll say no.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Morehouse?
Yes, HTC 26/315.
315, yes.
Bank holiday bookings for the building. As Vice Chair of the SCA, I declare an interest. I'll take part in debate. I won't vote, but I have no pecuniary interest.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And in a sense, I suppose I do as well. But I will be voting. So it's only marginal because I don't attend the August bank holiday because I tend to go to Declan. So we do have one marginal declaration of interest from Councillor Morehouse. Item number 4, minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee. To receive the minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee held on Wednesday the 12th of November 2025 and consider any matters. And can we have any thoughts, any comments or any proposals that we accept? I think we've got no thoughts. Can somebody propose the acceptance? Councillor Ripley, and seconded by Councillor Chipper. Oh, and we're voting on it, yes. A vote. Yes, please.
We need to finish the front one.
I can never be an author. My initial is too high. Okay, there we are. Thank you very much. Right, and if we can review of action and project log, and that is, I have a copy here. The text is again far too small. Fellowship Walk, DDC have contacted, so Town Clerk will speak to Councillor Wiles to establish what he wishes to do to take this forward. We had the meeting, of course, with Alison Cummings with regard to Fellowship Walk. I'm not sure where we are with that at the moment. Councillor Chipper, please.
So my understanding that Councillor Wiles will confirm is that the steps that we need to go through are so excessive and time rich and probably cost rich as well that we are not going to pursue it. But I think Councillor Wiles should be able to advise on that.
Right.
Because it's proximity to an ancient monument, the need to get heritage involvement before we can even consider making any changes. So I think we might find already that we know it's not something we would want to pursue.
Right, and Keith, did I see you raise your hand, Jane?
No.
No. Is there anybody else commenting this? So if we can just leave this as medium until we've spoken to Councillor Myers?
I think it'd just be emailed after the meeting.
Yes. Contractor completed restoring the work on the plaques in the War Memorial. A visual inspection of the War Memorial. Client didn't see the issues. Do we have anything more on this? I don't recollect.
We shared, yeah, we went separately, didn't we?
We did, but we came to the same conclusion, didn't we?
No problem at all. I don't feel there was an issue. I think it was just a style of
It's all-
lettering.
it's all-
It's just
And it was visible and it looks
You
good.
can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yes. So can we close, if we're happy with that? Unless anybody else has got any other comments on this, then we'll close this one, please. So the perennial bus shelter, and do we have any comments on this? There's,
Closed.
I think we've
Marked as complete.
marked, oh, it is complete. In that case, we will close that one. And, Councillor. Beg pardon?
Was there a decision to complete it?
It is marked as complete. Did we actually decide to complete this last time?
But I was told to find out who it belonged to, and I did. It belongs to us.
Right.
So, complete.
The actual comment here, the bus shelter needs to be at least partially enclosed. Though I think with no money in 2026 to 2027, there's nothing's going to happen anyway. So I think leaving it on the action log, unless that anybody actually feels strongly otherwise, and
Sorry, but
Carol,
I
please.
don't remember it being absolutely complete. I knew there was no money as such within the council, but I just think it is quite disgraceful that we've got that bus shelter that doesn't shelter anyone. It's not big enough, it doesn't shelter anyone from the side, and it's sat there all this time, and you have an awful lot of residents who feel somewhat aggrieved about it. I understand that there is sort of a bus company group that Kent County Council have actually got set up. I've emailed Kent County Councillor Peter, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name,
Peter Evans.
but to see whether they liaise with people at Stagecoach and so on. Now, I know that the bus shelter isn't actually Stagecoach's responsibility, but you can actually start perhaps talking to that group who do lobby them, and whether or not they are able to help at all with a bus shelter. I don't know, but I just think, you know, I know there's no money, but are we just going to let it go? Because DDC had a responsibility, and I think Sound Council had a responsibility too, to see it through and make sure that it did at least have sides on it,
Yes.
even though it's not going to have any actions on it.
Yeah, I think that it's taking a pragmatic view that
That you can't do anything.
what can we do?
Well,
And this will keep on coming back. And we're sort of trying to get to the point where we can sort of say either it's a success or we can't do anything.
so do we know how much money it would cost to put the sides on? Because we were waiting for money to be left over from the DDC project when they did the full court.
I
Do
think,
we know how much? And if we do know how much, and we still think it's something which should happen, if it's not in the 26-27 budget, can it be brought forward so that it goes into the 27-28 budget?
Councillor Pennington first.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I do remember we did discuss this on a previous occasion. The question was raised whether there was money left over. DDC had said there was no money left.
Yeah.
We asked for the accounts and were told more or less that there weren't any. And we felt at the time, I seem to remember, that we should keep this item on the action log because we weren't satisfied with the result. It may be that we found it difficult to make any progress, but it still remains an important issue. The bus stop is barely fit for purpose, and it's not well accepted. We all know there are security and dangerous issues around it, and really we still need something doing with it, even if we can't get anything done at the moment.
Yeah, and Councillor Morehouse.
Yeah, in general, we've been sold short on building forecourt projects per se. The issue I have with this is we are due to lose our district council and county council will be turned to unitary. So if there's no money now, there isn't going to be any money in the future. And I think this is our ideal opportunity to pursue this and get that rectified, get that brought up to the standard that we expected it to be. Because the benches are inadequate in number,
Yes.
and they're not properly finished.
And of course,
There is no protection around the trees.
and relative events. Councillor Chuka.
So I think we have to be pragmatic about this because a lot of what's been said tonight we've discussed multiple times. The project is closed. The project manager no longer is a project manager, is now actually head of assets. The money that we were hinted at getting doesn't exist. So that is a busted flush in terms of us doing anything in regards getting anything from DDC. We can exchange messages, we can have meetings, but the responsibility for the bus shelter is that it's STC owned. We've already said that we don't have any budget allocated for 26-27 for it, and that's why the action was closed. Doesn't mean to say the problem's gone away, but unless there is another avenue for funding, which DDC won't fund because it's not their responsibility, quite rightly. KCC won't fund, it's not their responsibility. It will be our responsibility. So we can accept it's an issue and we can revisit it for the 27-28, which is the new administration period, but have it logged to make sure it's not lost. But there's little point for the next 12 months having an action that we talk about every meeting and people say this is not acceptable. We can do something about it.
No.
There is nothing we can do today.
No, I agree. A pragmatic viewpoint is, and I would sort of suggest that as we approach the new administration, because of course there are elections prior to the 27-28 budget, that you might raise this again as something that's important. But practically speaking, with local government reorganisation, with all that's going on, it won't happen. And we can talk about this until we're blue in the face. So I would say we need to just, unfortunately, close this one down properly.
Although there's one thing that we could do in the lead up to that is actually finding out what the likely cost is, so you can actually start not from a standing start, but actually you've got the collateral gathered. It would be unwise to do it now because if you're waiting another 12 months, costs will change. But we should earmark it maybe in the last quarter of the next year to get costs generated around what the solution should look like.
Yeah.
And that can be handed across to the next administration.
Yes, yes.
Well, I do share Tom George's frustration with this, because we did have a post-completion meeting with DDC, and it does feel there was a real lack of accountability. There were numerous things that didn't match. And it was Councillor Pennington's comment about that there was, that we were to look at the budget, but we didn't get to see it. How does that work? I mean,
Yes. And Mrs. George?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, if that is the approach that the Mayor is suggesting we take, where does it get, say, sort of itemised on a budgetary process in the 27-28? Where is, only when it was sitting here, it was still live. So how do we know how we move it on?
Bring it back here in a year's time. Literally, I think that's the safest thing.
So as a resident, I
As a
bring it
resident,
back.
yes. Yes. And,
So it's still Sandwich Town Council's responsibility,
Yeah.
but as a resident, I'm bringing it back.
yes, yes. Either through this, I think that through this committee,
Okay.
and then ideally it goes up and it goes from here.
And the budget performance will go in
Yeah.
October time
Yeah.
this year.
So that's for 26,
Seven.
27,
27, 28.
26,
So-
October of this year,
So costings would need to be
Sometime.
done
yes.
so that we can put a budget pro forma in in October. So then at the budget meeting, it can be decided whether or not.
So we actually have possibly 2 meetings beforehand.
Mhm.
So if we can just leave this on here,
Well, why don't we have a fresh action? Now
Yes,
that we know
it's a
what
different
this
action.
is.
It's a
yes,
different
fresh action, but to identify costings for the bus shelter. But otherwise delete this one.
Mhm.
And this one was mine. Unfortunately, I haven't been,
So who's going to do the actions?
Simon.
yes. Sorry, Councillor Pennington.
Can I suggest in relation to the bus shelter, that we remind KCC and DDC that we, despite having no legal obligation to repair the bridge at Rider Street, did nevertheless contribute, and they might like to reciprocate.
Good luck with that.
Yes, yes. Well, we're recorded saying that, so the public know. Right.
Of course, there is.
With project budget, with regard to Ainsley Court, I believe, yes, the key path. I've basically, to put in a planning application, it's £155, though councils get a 50% discount, which I would imagine we will get. I now have a structural surveyor, an architect, and a builder to speak to, because I found that going into this, assuming sense would have been just go and do it, because it's just a path. The moment you start to actually do it officially, the things start to mount up. So I will try and get an idea of what a structural surveyor, because you get the architect who designs it, you get the structural surveyor who says that it's structurally sound, you then go to building control and you say, this is what we're going to do, and they say yes or no, then building control come and visit, plus the builder does it. So ultimately we start off. But I think the next meeting said this can be just left in progress, and hopefully I'll be able to come up with something then. Unless anybody else wants to take this one on. I know it's been going on for some years.
7 hands.
I do leave it with me, thank you.
Who's going to establish the costings for the bus?
I'll, with the costings for the bus shelter, do we have a volunteer for the costings for the bus shelter?
Go on then, I'll do it.
Councillor Ripley? A willing volunteer.
No, no,
Thank you very much.
no, they
Do we have to
volunteer.
vote on that? Do we have to vote on that, Chair?
I suppose to note, can we vote on the final, because these are sort of fairly minor tweaks, essentially. Now, we've got the notice boards in Braille still here as a low priority in progress. Do you want to make any comments, Mrs. George?
Sorry, I missed what you said, I apologise.
Oh, no, that's okay. This is with regard to action log, notice boards in Braille.
Yeah, no, it's extremely expensive to do.
Right.
And actually, I believe myself that wasn't something the council were going to be willing to do, because they have to make up special plates and you'd have to have them everywhere alongside all of, and also Braille, the plate is not just a normal size of writing, it's quite a long plate because of the amount of Braille that's on it.
Yes.
They can do it.
Right. I think we'll step back from it though. But can I sort of say thank you for researching
Okay.
that and raising it? That's appreciated.
So we close
So
this
we'll
one.
close that one, yes. Climate action strategy should be developed. Councillor Pennington will create a draft. Now you created a draft and I read that out at the last meeting. Is there anything at the moment that you want to raise with regard to that, the draft that you passed on to me? That has been read out at the moment. Or we can, no, we'll just move on, don't worry. No, I put you on the spot
Sorry,
here.
to the mayor for guidance on, or the clerk,
Yeah.
on how we take it further,
Yeah.
because it's presumably council policy.
I think basically it's so that we can, when questioned, we can say we are doing something, we are moving forward in, for example, LED lights, heating, insulation, and that, where the council is particularly involved.
I think the only issue in my mind was whether the planning committee would be interested in commenting or contributing.
Yeah, councillor Chuka?
So there were, if I recall, go back a couple of conversations around this. I made reference to the Deal Town Council, and they have approached this very, very efficiently. So there is reference material there, and it's about what we want to represent in terms of our strategy. At the moment, we haven't got a strategy, but that isn't completely negative, because actually we're doing stuff. What we're not doing is expressing that we're doing it. So you've already talked about the lighting here. There's insulation being installed. Those are elements that are a contribution by the town council towards dealing with climate emergency. But then there are broader things we can do. And that's why I made reference to their website as maybe a good starting point to look at developing our own strategy. Because at the moment we do not have a document that says, this is what we've done, this is what we're doing, this is what we might do. So that was it.
So it's some sort of document, such as like the action log.
Yeah. Well, it does, yeah. Sorry, let's not use old words like documents, but a strategy. I mean, that can sit on our website, but in whatever way we need to generate something that articulates what we're doing and what we might do.
Yes, because I think with regard to your draft, did that go on the website?
You didn't forward it, Jim.
Oh, my apologies. It's my fault. I will do that.
Yes, I mean, we did look at the Deal strategy, and I incorporated in the draft various initiatives in relation to insulation and lighting and so on, which thanks to the town clerk, Julie had provided. But it's true that it says basically this is what we're doing. If we need to think about further initiatives, then I think we need a fuller discussion.
Yeah.
And I would say it should be a stretch rather than a pat on our back for what we've done. So I think, we should approach it as something that is progressive rather than just steady state. But, that's my personal view.
Yeah. Unless we can actually be more constructive just within this meeting, obviously we are being constructive beyond the meeting, we can move on from that one. And can we just leave that one at the moment as in progress?
Okay.
Councillor Mallett, perhaps to add this to pass, well, actually, Councillor Pennington, if you can pass on your draft to town clerk, the same draft that you sent to me.
Oh, okay.
And then that can go in the magazine.
I thought we had it presented at this meeting.
Yes, we did. I read it out.
Yeah, I'm not going back to
No, I read it out.
Yes,
And I was going to pass it on to town clerk, to Sophie, but I'm afraid I neglected to. But so draft be forwarded to town clerk.
I imagine I've done that, but I'll do it again.
Faversham's community bus scheme not started. Can we just move on from there? I don't know if anybody. I think this is something that Councillor Black was looking at.
I seem to recall that he did feedback at previous meetings about
Yes.
the exorbitant cost.
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
Can we close this one, because I don't think we're going to.
Yeah.
I think it's been investigated. Councillor Chuka?
I think you need to confirm that. I think it has been investigated, but you need
Yes.
to, you should really close an action that Councillor Blacko is in his absence.
Yeah.
I would do that just in terms of process. So
Yes.
I think there's an email to him to say, has he exhausted it? I think he has exhausted the avenues. It's far too expensive. And we as a small parish council don't really have the capability to deliver what somewhere like Faversham that's 5 times the size of us.
Oh, yes.
But also that, from what he said, we're struggling with their scheme. So
Yes. So, Councillor Black to be approached with regard to essentially closing this as an action. I don't mind having that as my action.
It's all right, yeah.
Councillors said organisations, this is with regard to the resilience plan. We are discussing that further on in the agenda, so if we can move on from there. I did circulate, but we can do that in a little bit. And SIDS and costings. It is not possible to provide a price as each scheme and a site visit would be needed. Now, with regard to the speed indicator devices, do we want to cover Mrs. George?
The speed, yeah. Well, I understood that there was a particular speed camera that was available. Kent County Council had looked at it. It's operating in many other counties, and it would fit the issues that we have in Sandwich. And Kent County, well, Simon Byers did an enormous amount of research on this, and then the people who actually produced it came and went to Kent County Council to demonstrate, and they agreed that it did fit the bill, but they weren't willing to change their strategy on speed cameras.
Right, if that's the
Mrs.
case.
George, I spoke to the guy who's in charge of the SIDS, that this particular type of camera that you're talking about, one, it does not conform to the Kent County, it's not been approved by Kent Highways, so it can't be used. There is another type of SIDS that could be used. We could approach them about that. I can't, he basically said, I can't possibly give you a costing on that. I'd have to come out, site visit, etc., etc.
Is that the camera that we were talking about? Is that the camera that Kent County Council already have, or is that the one that Mr. Simon Barrows actually found out about?
I don't know, it's prior to my time.
Because they
did mention to me that he had been in contact with residents of Sandwich, and a camera had been discussed, which I assume is this one, and that it did not conform to the Kent Highways.
Yeah, and I know a little bit about that because I was involved in that with Simon Byers, and that's exactly right. Toby Butler, who is the key person in KCC, did write, if I recall correctly, to explain exactly why they wouldn't adopt it, and it to some extent it was around the 20 mile per hour limit, and the SID's not being able to operate within that sphere, so it was discounted, and they were not willing to have a conversation further about that particular device that Simon had identified. So what I'm not too sure about, what is the problem we're really trying to resolve here? I mean, a SID is a SID is a SID, but I'm not sure the scope of what we're trying to do and the money that's available to support it and what we want to ultimately end up achieving, because it's not just about a device, it's about people. People need to support that. We can't even get, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a downer tonight, we can't get Speedwatch up and running again.
No.
So there is no point spending, and some of these devices are £10,000. We haven't got the money allocated. If we found it, would it stay in the cupboard? We have to be realistic and pragmatic. You know, if there aren't people willing to do these operations.
Yeah, and I thought that the camera that they were talking about wasn't a camera that required people, which is.
It's a fixed one. It's a fixed one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that then goes into the other.
Because we've had problems, I mean, the town team did have a small number of people who were doing Speedwatch.
Yes.
But we couldn't expand that any further, and I don't think, as you've just said, I don't think council has been any more
We
successful
have
in
not.
trying to do it, which is very sad, given that one of the high priorities for residents is speeding in town.
If we can move on from this one, now can we close this, because, I don't think we're gonna, make any more progress. Is there any objection to closing this particular one? And we'll vote on our decisions in just a moment.
Could I just
Sorry,
make
Councillor.
a comment that I think it's generally found that the most effective way of getting people to reduce speed is not necessarily the cameras, but the digital displays of speed. And I know Winsborough's got one.
Yes. Oh, yes, we move it around, the battery.
But apparently they are much cheaper, and ACC can supply them for a fee. And they are quite effective.
We had to pay for our own in Winsborough.
Yes.
Are they restricted at all in conservation areas? Because I think they do work, they do make you kind of respond, but are there restrictions in conservation areas?
I don't know, yes. But is that another one that hasn't been discussed? Because when I think speed indicator device, I think of the Woodensborough one. And if it's a case of it won't work with speeds in or around 20 miles per hour, then if that's what we're focusing on, then it's not suitable for the heritage area of the town. Possibly the St Bart's area, but Councillor Chuka?
So let's be careful that we don't take this outside. The highway improvement plan is what should drive highway improvements.
Yes.
We shouldn't separately, as a committee, think of an idea or something that we want to pursue when that is the route for these things, and it has to be prioritised because there's a cost. I'm trying to find a cost on their guidance. So we've got a highway improvement plan in train. We've got things that we need to really, I'm going to talk about them shortly. We will need to do another round. If we feel there is a priority item around a speed indicator or warnings or whatever it is, that goes on to the next highway improvement or the next version of it.
Right.
As a committee, we shouldn't have something as a parallel standard item.
I agree. In that case, I think we'll remove this from the action log. Now, can I have a proposal that we've covered the action log? We've made a number of changes, that being to remove notice boards in Braille, the speed indicator device, the
Bus shelter.
bus shelter, though that's going to be moved into an action for October area. And if I can have somebody to propose those 4 changes, that was 4 changes to the action log. That's Councillor Ripley proposing, Councillor Pennington seconding. We can just vote on this. Thank you very much. And moving on to public participation, item number 6, a 20-minute session. Before I read out many words, do we have anybody who's applied to?
I'm not aware, but
No. I think we'll sort of say, no, we don't have anybody applying for public participation. Disability access strategy, members to receive a report on the ramp at Ainslie Court. I did comment on that. Basically, the challenge grows the more you talk about it. So if we can just say decision required, I think just to note at the moment, I know it says decision required,
no.
but to note that, can I have somebody to propose? That's Councillor Morehouse, and second Councillor Pennington. And to vote on that, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And moving on, we have climate emergency plan update, tree plan update. And very kindly, we had Nikki Young, who's Nikki Warden, who is the tree warden, has prepared a report on trees. Now, it's a complete and substantial report. And I think our meeting at the moment doesn't sort of suit discussing it in detail. However, if those who've read it, if there's any particular comments that you want to make now, otherwise I would propose that we make a point of discussing this at our next meeting, giving everybody a chance to review, maybe choose particular bits that you're interested in and feel are relevant. Councillor Ripley.
Right, just about section 5.2.9 about tree planting. So I'm skipping over most of this, just to make that comment. It's about engaging with inhabitants and getting them to suggest and propose things. I would have thought that the best way to do that would be by the STC magazine, because that would go out to every household in the area. And then if people are interested, they can respond to that.
That sounds a super idea. Is this something that we can have a form of words passed on to town clerk to include?
No.
No.
I can't think of any off the top of my head. Well, just that, engaging with local inhabitants could be done via the STC magazine for their ideas and I've lost it.
Oh, right. No, that's all right. That's all right.
Ideas, suggestions,
Yes.
comments.
Secretary Town Clerk, is that something that you
Yeah,
feel
we can
you
do
could
that.
come up with some words for that? That would be great. So basically, as per 5.2.9, where it's inviting residents to suggest potential locations, gauging local support before approaching KCC, and encouraging voluntary watering support. And the voluntary watering support is important because otherwise, they die. And I think that would be.
Okay.
But 5.2.9, so I think fairly well covers what is needed.
Can I just ask, has DDC been approached over where they would think it was suitable within the area to put trees? Because I know that before, quite a few years ago, they were very much against any more trees being put into some of the public places which we were coming up with. So within Sandwich and Bone, for example, there was an idea of lining Ash Road, coming into Strand Street with trees, and they said absolutely not. The same coming from Discovery Park, because there are all sorts of cabling
Yes.
and so on underneath where you have street lights. And also they said it would cost a lot of money to water when they were young saplings, and then to keep pollarded. So there's lots of places that I think we know from a sort of localised discussion that was suggested, but DDC at the time said we need to, they need to sort of do some surveys to actually say where might be appropriate, rather than just ask everybody to come back and then disappoint the people who wanted the trees planted in a particular way.
Yeah, Councillor
But no, I was just going to say, I think Nikki Warden has covered all those points quite successfully.
Sorry, I haven't read that.
That's fine. But I think she has covered all those points of potentials, for discussion and agreement and all the rest of it. So she has done that.
Yes, and I think from my own experience with trees, building and planning, is that there are two kinds of trees. There's the bare root, very, very cheap. You chuck them in and you hope they grow. There's the street trees, which are expensive, they're large, and you basically plan them as part of the street scene. And also considering heave and the impact they have on the surrounding environment. So, for example, my foundations, they can be 0.9 of a metre if there are no trees around whatsoever. They can be 0.5 if they are more than 25 metres away, and they can be 0.55 and more, and then you can't have a slab. But this is largely irrelevant to the discussion, but trees have such an impact on planning that you risk getting into a bit of a minefield on this one. But I would certainly suggest that the next meeting we have, if we actually allocate and say we will look at this over a period of 20 to 30 minutes and run through, and those who are able to can just basically appraise and sort of, be familiar with the report that Nikki has read, because I don't want to leave that, because I think it's an important report, and we can hopefully not pad out the next meeting with too many other things, allowing us time for that meeting. Councillor Pennington?
Yeah, sorry, I was just, it's a smallish point. At the last Monk's Wall committee, we were told of quite significant tree planting at Monk's Wall.
Which we have done.
It has been done,
Yeah,
Yes, we planted 400 trees, some as bushes, some as hedges, and some as little copses. So, well, you were there. Yeah, and so we'll come back to that in 10 years' time and see how they are. Right, if we can, so climate emergency, there's no voting on that one. But I would like to say thank you very much for Nikki for a very complete report, and it won't be left just as something. We will come back to this hopefully we will come back to the next meeting. Highways update. Members to receive the report on highways and the HIP, the HIP. Now, Councillor Chuka, you mentioned that you would maybe have a few comments on that. Would you like to say anything, or because I don't think, do we have a report? Attachment 10.
No.
I don't. Yes, because I couldn't.
What we have is tree and hedgerow report, which is out of the HIP discussions that we've had with Lizanne Cesar from Kent County Council. That's attachment 10.
Let me just go back to that.
There's some drawings of the slow markings and an email from the zone.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Got that in front of me.
Mine is.
There.
Oh, there we go. So I did see that and I did read it.
It's 14.
Attachment 14, attachment 10. It's just after that. Here we go, attachment 10. Outline drawings for the slow markings on Deal Road. Now, there wasn't was there? Yes, there was. Here we go. And decision required. Now, is this something that needs to be included just within the HIP report or budget, or something that, because are we able to decide on this?
So what this is seeking agreement from this meeting for KCC to implement these slow markings on the road, but they're going to pay for it out of their own.
Or if they're paying for it, then yes.
So when we created the HIP, which is a substantial time ago now, the schools were right at the top of the list as problem area. And this is one element of that, which is for the tech school. The signage wasn't properly installed, and I mean, to be honest, it's quite. I think we should appreciate the fact that the KCC officer has gone another length on this, in the sense that when we met with her, the signage was not correct. She got those reinstated, but she's now saying that actually you can also include slow markings on the road, and I don't see why we wouldn't support that.
No. So this is slow markings on the Deal Road.
Yeah.
Outside the secondary school,
Yeah.
the tech school.
Alongside the signage.
And so basically putting slow on the road. And the decision being, do we support this? And I would say I would certainly propose supporting that. So I'm proposing, Councillor Morehouse is seconding. So if we can just vote on that, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. And there was also a comment about the junior school. Discuss the temporary 20 mph speed limit outside Sandwich Junior School and the extension of the existing 20 mph on Sandown Road, as they require some further information from me to them for them to proceed. So this is something that will come back to us in due time.
Sorry, this came up at the town team meeting, Sandown Road, because the people at the other end don't feel that extending that is going to that 20 mph zone is going to make any difference at all, because no one takes any notice of what's going on there now without enforcement, which we don't have. They can't see the point. What they were concerned about, speeding drivers who come out from the golf club and then turn into the road and accelerate, coming back in. I'm just wondering if the residents need to have some sort of, if one of the residents would write in and explain why they didn't believe that extending it was going to be much value. It's because they said no one takes any notice of that where it is now.
I thought that the 20 mph limit were generally imposed where people generally went at 20 mph.
Well, I don't. No, I don't think.
That was.
I don't think so.
That was. So if you actually applied to be a 20 mph, because we've done this in Woodensborough, we've applied, and the response has been, if people aren't going at 20, if they're going at 30 normally, then you can't have a 20 mph limit. Which, that's what come back from. So.
Yeah. That can be a consideration, but in terms, sorry, you were first.
No, you were first.
Okay. So, when we did the highway improvement plan, within it we identified the issues around schools as being a priority item. What KCC have done, have looked at different options of what they can do. So Tech School, they've made sure the signage was correct. They're also now going to put slow markings, brilliant. They also looked at the other schools, Sandown Road. They said that they could extend, and they see the value in doing that. What I would be unhappy with as a council is to say that just because some residents say, well, everybody ignores speeding, we therefore don't support it. It's something that should be pursued, because ultimately, if that is implemented, the next challenge is about policing it, and that is separate from actually speed limits. And we have to then, if we feel we need to, put pressure on the police in terms of that. But this has been a long-standing issue about the golf club and views of some residents about possible speeding, about possible alcohol, etc., etc., etc. That isn't within the remit of the highway improvement plan. This is about trying to tackle around the schools what we would want to do to improve the safety for the school children. And if you reduce the speed, the facts are it increases the, if somebody gets hit, it increases the survival rates. So I think it would be a bit of miss of us to say just because a small number of residents say, well, everybody ignores 20 miles per hour in the town, therefore we don't pursue it. I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, I would get that.
And I don't really want a resident writing to explain why people ignore 20 mile per hour limits. It doesn't really add value.
Councillor Pennington?
I think I'm right in saying that there is no signage outside the junior school on.
No, I don't think there will. I think the proposal is that that area should be a 20 mile per hour limit.
Yes, because there's a banner opposite the school that says remember the 20 mile limit. but there aren't actually signs.
I would imagine it's a standard banner.
That's the 20 is plenty banner, which is, I passed it in the week and realised it's actually all in shreds. But I think it's just the slogan, isn't it, that
Yeah.
20 is plenty.
I think you're quite right.
I think they've
I think this
campaigned
is-
for a long time for there
this
to
is
be
to
20
actually-
along there.
Put in a temporary 20 mile per hour limit, which I would assume is with the schools going in and out times. Yeah. Okay, if we can, oh, sorry, Councillor
As
Morehouse.
part of that 20, are they going to put in different coloured tarmac outside the schools?
Oh,
Or does it make?
It doesn't say here, so I think this is the initial approach. So I think the most we can do is we've agreed with regard to the slow markings, and I think if we are going to vote, can we just vote to note the 20 mile per hour comment? So can I have somebody propose noting? That's Councillor Morehouse, and seconding Councillor Ripley. If we just vote on that, so we are noting the proposals for 20 mile per hour limits, and obviously more information will come through. Resilience plan, this is agenda item number 11. Now, last time I committed to going through and proposing a number of links and local, as much as possible local, but some national organisations that can be listed on a page on our website, so that it was basically a one-stop shop. I hope that you've had a chance to just glance at that. What I would like to do is that we can agree that that is passed on to Town Clerk. Now, I'm happy to go through and revitalise it so you've got proper names with a summary, so that you're not having to sort of reinvent the wheel there.
Thank you.
And even put it into a web format that you're the webmaster. You're happy with doing that.
Cut and paste.
Right. If we can just, there's any comments on that approach?
Just, I see that you put down the Citizen Advice Bureau at the Jubilee Centre. You know they're no longer there.
I thought they're marked down as 10 o'clock on Monday.
They're now the Age Concerned Sandwich on Mondays from 10 to 3.
Right,
They
in that
changed
case.
their venue, so they now work out of our office space in our wellbeing centre.
No, thank you. We can change that. So 10 till 3.
Yeah, I think that's the time, yeah, they're there.
Yeah, let me just actually put that down because I've got the draft here. So, citizens' advice. Come on. And obviously it shows how useful this potentially can be, because if I was looking for citizen advice, I'd be going to the Jubilee Centre at 10 o'clock. And if we can actually put the correct times on here, then people will know. So going forward, any further comments on that?
Sorry, can I just ask, can that be added to at any
Yes,
point? So, because I'm sure that
it needs to be
residents
a
might
line.
come up with.
yes, it'll be totally live, so we can review this. It can even go on the action log as any comments, any further, and we can either, there will be comments, or we can move on quite quickly. But so fundamentally, it's a live thing.
Yeah.
So as people come up with something, then it can go on. And if we can have a proposal, basically to decision required, and that decision being to go ahead with this such that I can pass this on to Town
There was
Clerk.
just someone else as well. I do feel you probably have to put the town library on there, because I'm sure they do a warm space and things like that.
Ah, yes,
They do things like that as well.
Yes.
So a lot of libraries do other things.
yeah.
I'm sure they've got like disabled change rooms there, stuff like that.
Warm-
But they should
warm space and
at the
change
library as
rooms.
well as at age concern, so
Is useful to know, and I'll add that, but I'll check with the library first.
check with them. They
Yes.
do wellbeing services at libraries now,
Yeah,
and they have to, so you could buy 2 or 3, especially
Yeah.
in schools like they coach for children, I mean, who can't afford them, etc. So that is,
Yeah.
I think there's also with healthcare, because the main 2 providers are ECUF and Kent Community Health Services, and they both do minor injuries. I think I'll look into
Well,
it.
minor injury is actually in deal, yes, you're quite
Yeah,
right.
but also all round, they're different providers, but I'm sure there must be, I'll find out the link that
Yes,
directs people to all the main
yeah.
minor injuries,
Because it
urgent
avoids-
treatment centres and the hospitals, because
Yes.
in a way, if people are visiting, it's not, and also people don't always know even if they're resident.
Yes.
So,
Can you email me that?
yeah, I'll find out the link, yeah.
Yes, and also, can you email me with regard to the library, just so it doesn't get lost? And we'll add that to this. And, but as I say, it's a live thing, so as things come up, we can pass them through to Town Clerk too. But obviously, managing the page so it doesn't become too big, so that so it's local and a bit of national, but mainly help. What do I do? Go there. Yeah, who are you going to call? Right, if we can just do we vote? Lost the plot totally. Can we just vote on this one and the decision being to pass on to Town Clerk for me to pass on, and proposal from Councillor Morehouse, seconded. I'm going to do Councillor Pennington. Hasn't done that yet. We can vote on that. Thank you very much. Right, moving on. ACVs. Now, members to consider any ACVs that have been put forward and next steps to registering them. Now, I'm going to invite Councillor Nick. Oh, Gray. Sorry, Councillor Gray to basically put to us what ACVs are, and I know he's listed a few. Just to summarise why some of them have been listed, so we can understand, because Councillor Gray has led on this, and I don't want to steal his thunder. Over to you, Councillor Gray.
Thank you. I would like to make 2 points before we discuss this further on my report. The first thing is that listing properties as ACVs does actually work. The best example I can give you, which I was involved in recently, was the Jubilee Centre in Sandridge. Now, some of you may know that the Phoenix Centre that used to operate from the building closed down during COVID, principally because this council refused to give them an emergency loan to keep them going over COVID. The result was they surrendered their lease, they closed the operation, they surrendered their lease to DDC, who almost immediately said, that's fine, we'll take our lease back and we will offer the land for housing. Now, I with some others got together and we formed the Friends of the Phoenix Centre, and we applied to register the property with DDC. Our registration was accepted. The property was listed, and which gave us 12 months moratorium period, during which we put together a business plan, which we submitted to DDC, and after very lengthy negotiations, DDC accepted and agreed not to sell the land as housing, but to grant a lease to a new charity, which we set up, and we set up the Jubilee Centre, which is now, I think, a thriving and successful community hub. Now, that would not have happened had we not taken advantage of the legislation and registered it. So we need in this town to look at other buildings which are of community value, and see whether we should register if they're in danger, and many of our properties may be in danger, and we should consider whether we should list them as ACVs. It costs nothing to do, there are no fees involved, and you just register them with DDC. who are bound to accept the deregistration if they fall within the grounds of being an asset of community value. The other thing I'd like to say, which is a slight update to my report, which is that the government recently announced that they're considering strengthening the legislation, which might lead to giving those who are interested in an asset of community value an actual right to buy the property. At the moment, all you get under the ACV is the right to negotiate within a 12-month period. But if actually government give an actual right to buy, it will strengthen the rights of people who want to preserve assets of community value. The caveat on that, which need to be considered, is that the government will no doubt get howls of protest from the property business, and they will give in to them, probably by restricting those properties which can be registered as assets of community value. And therefore, it is worth considering now whether they should be registered, as in the future, if they do strengthen the legislation, they may fall from without it. Now, I've in this paper listed a number of properties some of which might be at risk and might be properties which should be registered as assets of community value. And I think you will know that, I hope you read my report and know that all what that does is it gives you a 12-month period in which to negotiate with the owner of the land to see if you can come to a deal with them, during the 12-month period they cannot sell the land. And this, of course, puts off a lot of developers and a lot of people who might want to buy these buildings opportunistically and convert them into flats or whatever. And I think this is something this committee should consider seriously, whether and which properties there are which should be recommended to the council to apply to DDC to register them as assets of community value. I've set out the title, I've set out who can nominate a building to be an asset of community value, and we, the town council, can. We can nominate any building within our jurisdiction. The criteria to be eligible is that the asset must show a reasonable current use that furthers the social well-being or social interests of the community. And I've listed in another section the types of buildings which can be registered as ACVs. Residential buildings are excluded. Once registered, you have a 12-month moratorium, in which gives you a chance to try and negotiate with the owner, as we did with the land at the Jubilee Centre. So really, I'll be over to you to discuss whether you think there are buildings which should be registered.
Yeah. Councillor Pennington? Sorry, I don't want to. Are you
No, that's
comments
fine.
now?
Unless you've got any queries or questions.
Yes, I think we do. Yes, Councillor Pennington.
I'd simply say from previous experience in Westgate, we did find the scheme extremely valuable in defending the bandstand on front there, and it was because we were quick enough to register it that we managed to keep it for community use.
Mm-hmm. And Councillor Chuka?
So I've read through all of the information from a DDC perspective and more from a broader perspective. So the Jubilee Centre's current coverage expires in June of this year.
Yes.
Will you be applying to extend it again, or do you think it's, because you put it, it's on the list here, so I'm interested to know whether the trustees will be looking to expand it?
Yes, I think we will register.
Yeah,
Yes, I am one of the trustees, and yes, I think we will re-register it,
okay.
which you can do.
So my observations are that across, well, not observations, based on facts, across Dover District, there's only 19 establishments currently registered, so it's a very small number. There's only one in Sandwich, Jubilee Centre.
Yeah.
I've looked back at the period at which assets had actually been accepted. There are years gaps. So, for example, none in 24, none in 23. So it's not a massive machine, is the point I'm making. So on my personal views, I'd be very loath for us to suddenly throw at Dover 25 assets. So I think if we're going to do this, we have to be very clear about assets that we really see as valuable, that we see as under threat, and that we would see as a great loss to the town, rather than it being a blanket approach. Again, anything we see that moves on the list, because I suspect Dover will be very unhappy to have an avalanche of requests just from Sandwich, because if I look elsewhere, nowhere else seems to be pursuing this in great extent. So that's just sort of a holistic approach.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think we do need to be selective, and we need to look at these and say, are any of these properties at risk, and are they likely to be sold by the owners for commercial use rather than continue with community use? I think it's very important that we do that, and I wouldn't like to see you just take that whole list and say, let's apply for these. I think we should be very selective.
Yes. A question with regard to the 12 months. Is it a case of you apply for 12 months, or you apply and then you have 12 months? So it sits there as an ACV indefinitely, and then somebody comes up and says, I want to buy this and turn it into a sports club.
Yes.
And that kicks off the 12 months, having previously registered.
Correct, yes. The 12-month period starts when the owner announces that he's considering selling the property.
So the ACV sits there
Yes,
all the time.
No,
So it could be
5 years.
5 years.
yes, 5 years, yes.
Is it worthwhile, having, for example, an entry on our action log, ACV, such that just sits there unused, but where people get a feeling, to understand that something is about to happen, bearing into consideration Councillor Trooper's comment that putting a large number all of a sudden wouldn't be appropriate, but that we are watching out, so that if somebody does say, watch out, for example, the Bell Hotel is about to be turned into a mixed hospital, for example.
I think that would be a very sensible approach. This is something which we need to keep the properties under review.
Yes.
I mean, for instance, the other day, the King's Arms, the owner, the current manager of the King's Arms, was in doubt whether he would want to continue his contract he's got with Punch Towns. And eventually he did turn around and say that he'd agreed to take it for another 12 months. So I don't know what can happen in 12 months' time, but it's certainly something, a building, which I think the council should keep under review as to what might happen at the end of that 12 months.
Sorry, Nick, you've probably said this already, but bear with me. So if something comes on the market, can you then put into an ABC, or must it be done before anything is up for sale?
you have to do it before the property is actually sold.
But you could do it if somebody said, say for example,
Well, I mean, yes, the classic, the best example of that is the Grow Hall.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
the Minister of Defence put it up for sale.
Yeah.
They came to an agreement with the funeral directors, but they didn't actually sign a contract. So the council became aware of that. The site registered it as an asset of community value, and that stopped the Ministry of Defence and signing a contract with them. And that gave the time for them to, the council, to decide what to do.
Mrs. Georgian and
Okay.
Mrs. Chuka.
It was interesting you mentioned the King's Arms, and you've got, there's quite a few pubs there. These pubs tend to be owned by, well, they're not actually owned, but they're controlled, if you like, by, as you've just said, punch taverns in this case. But that doesn't always mean that they own the land on which the building sits, or in which they themselves are leasing. So when you're saying because it can be registered, so if the land owner is different to in this case, someone like Punch Taverns, the people who just have bought the building but not the land, so they become the leaseholder, do they not, for the land, for the property, but the land that property sits on can belong to someone else. I might be muddled here, but I was just thinking about the post office. So the post office, which is gone now, but the post office, the land that post office, I think, sat on, was not actually owned by Royal Mail, was it?
If the post office have a lease of more than 21 years,
Yeah.
Indeed.
then that brings it within the legislation.
So it would bring it
Yes.
within. So some of these pub companies, I mean, someone like the King's Arms, which is quite a big plot.
Yeah.
So if that was sold off for housing or flats,
So, well, Punch doesn't actually do own the freehold.
No.
King's Arms. But if they had a lease of more than 21 years, then they would be restricted from, they'd have to comply with the legislation. So they couldn't sell property for the 12-month moratorium. They couldn't sell their lease for the 12-month moratorium.
because a lot of the pub companies have sort of taken over as businesses as pubs have gone up for sale. And we've got, you're right, we've got a lot of buildings in Sandwich,
Yeah.
but they've taken them over as a landlord, a person who then, so for example, the Georgian Dragon, which, it was taken over because they then put a manager in, but I don't think a lot of those have been there for
A lot of these
20
pub companies now, property companies, they're not pub companies.
No, they're not. They're sort of,
They won't get rid of property.
no. But yeah, I mean, I was just interested about how deep down the ability to negotiate went. That was all.
Well, I mean, the legislation prevents the owner of that land from selling it.
Yes.
Or if the owner has leased it to a tenant, if the tenant has a lease of more than 21 years, they're also affected by the law.
Right, okay, thank you.
And just very briefly, so for example, going back to King's Arms, I mean, I appreciate that it's got 12 months and it's their business. Let's say that was, we were concerned about that. The process being, for example, somebody raised it at this committee and we agreed as a committee that we were concerned about it. What happens next? So we go to Dover District Council and say,
We would apply to Dover District Council to register that property as an asset of community value.
right. And that is very much, do we have to, we would then, I presume, have to give our reasoning behind that?
Yes, you have to give your reasons why.
Yeah.
And it does have to be a building which has been used for
Community,
social
community value.
community
Hence the name. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
And they do
Councillor Chuka?
decide, they do turn down, there's, if you look on the website, there's also a list of those that have not been successful, and all they've done is cut and pasted that they don't meet the criteria, so there isn't anything below that. So,
Correct.
the experience is the experience. I don't know how much debate there is, how much deep analysis is done of any applications, because all they've done is cut and paste to the top
Yes.
line of turning down applications.
So, in terms of moving on from here, your decision, if we were to sort of say having within our action log as a watching brief, so that anybody can raise a concern, that being the case, we can then discuss it, but it's something that will sit there possibly for years without actually anything happening. Councillor
I
Chuka?
prefer not to put it on the action log, because we shouldn't have actions that are inactive.
Yes, I'm
So
trying to think where it would go.
Terms of reference. So I expect the terms of reference at the moment for heritage and townscape doesn't include, we would consider any circumstances where an asset might be under threat, and then it would come into that. So you could have it in the terms of reference.
Yes, so the next time the terms of reference are
Yeah, which is the start of the year.
Yes,
yeah. But I look at the list that you've done, and these are all properties that we're all very familiar with. But do any jump off the page to anybody here in that actually this is really at risk? I'm not sure they do. But the issue on the other side of the coin is the post office. We knew about it when it was too late.
Yeah.
So, it's very difficult to judge where you sit on this.
It is.
Hey, Mark, sorry, can I just
Yes.
ask one more question? So Gallows Field, Gays and Salts, the cricket grounds, and aren't these already owned by DDC?
They are.
Yeah.
So if we
Well,
if we
Jubilee
register
was.
that, how does that work? So we're telling them that we want them.
But it would in effect prevent DDC from selling.
So yeah, but are they obliged to accept the
If
fact
they
that
are the owners.
Yeah.
And if the property does meet the requirements, then they would have to register.
they are
then-
obliged to?
Yeah,
Like, like with the Jubilee
Jubilee
Centre,
Centre.
at the Phoenix
Yeah.
Centre,
Yeah.
DDC owned their land.
Yeah.
So they were bound
Yeah.
to, and they were happy to do both, but the Jubilee Centre was fell within the
Yes, no,
requirements.
I was just wondering whether they had the right when you said this. I mean, I agree, they're pretty critical, and they could take an awful lot of housing if they were sold
Yes.
off, but didn't know whether they had the right to veto something that was because it was there that, right, okay,
They had to comply
right.
with the legislation.
Right, so,
Sorry, can I just ask, so how are we suggesting then that we go forward with this?
Well-
Because there are, for example, for me, the important things are Gallows Field, Gays and Salts, and the cricket grounds. That's what I would go for, but how are we proposing to do something about this and take it forward rather than just talking about it?
can I propose that nothing at the moment, we include it in the terms of reference that the Heritage and Townscape has essentially almost a watching brief, but we are the first point of contact. My concern is if we were to say, let's say the three, the Gallows Field, Cricket Club, Gays and Salts, 5 years' time, we'll have forgotten. So 5 years' time, we forget to renew it, and it just passes beyond.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't take any action just because down the line.
Oh, yes, but if it's a watching brief, then somebody will say, Gallows Field, we think somebody's about to buy that, or DDC is about to sell it. But I'm just proposing that as a suggestion. So, Councillor Chuka?
The other,
Oh, sorry.
the other issue, of course, you have to be realistic, because actually if we have 25 items that STC have put its name against as a body to be approached should they be on the market, where would we get the money to purchase 25 items?
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Which is why.
So you have to be very careful about this. So, Gays and Salts, do we think it's at risk? I'm not aware it is. Do we think, would it be a loss to the community? Yes, it would. Would the town council be able to purchase it within a 12-month period? Questionable.
Yeah, but we're not talking about 25 things going on the market at once, are we? We're talking about potentially one thing that might come up over the course of the next few years. And then you'd have to make a decision, see what you could do, but, you know.
Does it? So
Sorry,
again,
Councillor
sorry, but there is a question there. So if you have it as an ACV, and something did happen, so someone came up and said they were going to, the donor said they were going to sell off the land, what, do you then have to make a decision that you have, because you've registered it, it would be you that would have to purchase it?
No.
No, Councillor Morehouse was first, actually.
What it means is that Dover Council could not sell it for the moratorium period, during which time it will give the opportunity for somebody who might be more acceptable to
Yes.
to enter into
Yeah, so it doesn't
to
just fall back, yeah.
negotiate with Dover Council.
Yes, and Councillor Morehouse.
I think one eye
But do remember that at the end of the day, the owner of the land is not under any obligation to sell. All it does is it gives us the opportunity for 12 months to try and find somebody more acceptable to us to buy the land for purposes which we approve of. And then we would need to persuade DTC to enter into an agreement with that.
So, Councillor Morehouse.
Yeah, having one eye on the unitary issue, I would say that the bottom four, so that would be the key, cricket grounds, Gaze and Salts and Gallows Field, should be on our watch.
Yeah. Councillor Pennington.
Yes, it links in with the point that Mrs. George raised. Our experience in Westgate was that we worked closely with a private language school, and it was in fact the language school, which was a limited company, which took the thing further, but they had full support from the council, and I think that helped sway the minds of Thanet District Council in Alfred.
So my view is that do we want to look at applying sooner rather than later for ACVs on a selected number, or just basically agree that we're going to watch and wait, knowing that we can apply for an ACV? And any thoughts on? Yeah, and that would at least avoid overwhelm.
If I may, I would say, I think that putting these properties on a watch list,
Yes.
making sure that we do watch what's happening, keep our ear to the ground, is probably all one needs to do.
Yes.
And if this paper does nothing else but to bring it to the council's attention,
Yes.
that they need to be careful and watchful of what's happening to the
I
property.
think that's the most realistic.
Probably
Yes.
all sufficient for the moment.
Yes. Because it's the sort of thing that somebody will say, "Did you know?" And having a number of ACVs sitting there gives a false sense of security.
It does, I agree.
Another example of where it would have been really helpful, and as was with the Jubilee Centre, was the schoolhouse. Because
Yes,
by the
of
time
course.
KCC were selling that, we didn't have time to actually do anything about it. But,
Yes.
So the idea of having that watch list and,
Yes.
is really crucial.
So terms of reference to be reviewed, as you say, beginning of when they're reviewed,
It's part
to
of the
include,
annual town meeting, the town council.
yes, responsibility for considering ACVs on vulnerable, at-risk properties.
Solemnly.
Right, can we move on to a vote on that?
Another question.
Yes.
Are we we vulnerable to these large areas of open spaces being sort of eaten up or under this scheme for a new devolved boundary?
Oh, I hope not.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
wondering how that might work. Would it make us more vulnerable to perhaps losing some of these open spaces?
Well, hence, as long as we are having a watch list, then we're able to apply for an ACV.
Yeah.
And Councillor Tomlin?
Just to add, we can't predict who might be in charge of the new unitary authorities and what their attitude to asset stripping is, so that's another risk, isn't it?
And Councillor Chuka?
Okay, can I, before we do close, can I thank Councillor Gray for surfacing this, because actually, not all councillors will have had knowledge. I didn't know the ins and outs, so it's made me investigate it. So I think it's about awareness. It's about now the next stage is about keeping it in view and then being able to react quickly, because I think in the past, like with the school, I didn't know about at that stage, I didn't know about ECBs, and I would have, said, why don't we go down that route?
Yes.
Nobody voiced that, so we did lose that opportunity.
Well, I mean, I had voiced with regard to carpenters,
Yes.
when there was the concern over what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But fortunately, it seems to have gone to somebody who is approaching
The town.
the town. So if we can vote on, what are we voting on? That we look at terms of reference such that Heritage and Townscape has a watching brief with regard to considering ACVs in the event that we are alerted to change. And can I have a proposer? And Councillor Morehouse and Councillor Tomlins for seconding, and we're going to vote on that, and that is unanimous. We're going to move on to, thank you very much, that's really appreciated. Yeah, I think we've, there's a positive move forward there.
Yeah, we've now got 10 people in the room who now know about ACVs.
Yes. So, agenda item number 13, Mayor 800 celebration, members to receive a verbal update on arrangements for the Mayor 800 celebration. I need to pass on 2 more badges over there. Councillor Chuka, can I pass that on to you?
If I can find the attachment, so it's more than just a verbal update. Sorry. If I can see my...
I have it printed if you want.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because I think it might be sent separately to
It was last week, it got there in the end.
Might just stay here.
Thank you. Okay, so I won't read it verbatim. So just to recognise the fact that this year, whilst history, when you go back hundreds of years, you can always dispute about when something actually happened or who it was. But it's commonly accepted that the first mayor of Sandwich was appointed in 1226, not least that it was celebrated at the 700th anniversary, and there are photographs available of that having happened in Sandwich. So this year is the 800th. Year from 1226, and the intention is that, to celebrate that through a number of activities, and the premier activity will be a pageant on Saturday the 2nd of May, and that will be a procession through the town involving the mayors of the Cinque Ports, the Lord Warden, the High Sheriff, the Lord Lieutenant's Deputy, and community groups as well. So, for example, the Combined Cadet Force are going to be included, and others will be invited as well. So it will be a procession from the quay that will come past the Guildhall. Alongside that, there will be a lighting of the beacon on the Friday, with the choir, with heritage reenactors, and the beacon itself being lit. Also on the Sunday, there will be a church service that Father Sebastian is organising with other denominations represented that will have a mayoral theme to it. Within that, there will be a premiere of a new hymn that's been written by William Mason, who's the organist and assistant director of music at King's College School, Cambridge. So that'll be premiered on that of that church service. The other couple of things that are happening around it are that the Arts Society, Sandwich Arts Society and Sandwich History Society are organising a lecture in the Guildhall that will be focused on mayors through time. That will be delivered by Terry Palmer. There is also going to be an exhibition in the museum. The new museum manager starts this Friday. One of the first challenges will be to curate an exhibition that will be displaying artworks from Sir Roger Manwood School, from the Tech School, from the Junior School, and potentially also photographs from Nostalgic Sandwich. So all of that will be turned into an exhibition that will run through June. I think I've covered everything that's happening. If I haven't, I apologise. Yeah, I think that's it. And as part of the procession, there will be reenactors involved, 20 or so medieval reenactors, and there may be others. Another thing that Councillor Franklin is pursuing is the fire brigade will be part of the procession, pursuing getting the fire engine that is Sandwich's fire engine that's currently at Dover Museum, Transport Museum, to have that brought back here for that event. He's yet to confirm that's the case, but hopefully that will be involved there. But the fire brigade are part of the procession in any case. So that's it in a nutshell. But also there are a couple of supporting items. So, for example, there's going to be a souvenir booklet that Councillor Mallet has been leading on, and badges, which some of us are wearing, as all of us have got. So there'll be some commemorative badges as well. So that's it in a nutshell of what's happening. Any questions?
No. Great. So if we can, that's not so much a decision, I think. If we can note.
Just note, yeah.
Yes. So if we can vote, can I have a proposer to note this? Councillor Pennington, and to second, Councillor Morehouse. And if we can just show of hands, that is unanimous. We all note it. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tudor. And moving on to Town of Culture Expressions of Interest. This is something that Town Clerk, that Sophie raised as a possibility that we can look at, which has circulated the details there. I don't know, do you want to have a little comment on that?
It was in fact our member of public who's here today who forwarded it on to me. Deal Council are submitting an application, but yeah, I mean, there's obviously a large amount of money available, but the deadline is very tight. So you can have up to £1 million if you are the winner, or 250 if you're runner-up, and then there's a £60,000 to sort of progress your funding. My thoughts are, I think it's very tight timing to get together a coherent application at this point. But I'm just putting it in front of you so that you have the opportunity. But it's if somebody feels strongly and thinks that this would be a wonderful thing to do, then
31st of March, and Councillor Tomlins.
So just to clarify, it's kind of a town for the whole of the UK, or is it a town? Oh yeah, so the competition is going to be
city culture.
Yeah,
And now they're going to do town.
It'd be interesting, I think, my personally, to kind of see what happens this year, because obviously there's so many towns in the UK. As it's the first year, and kind of rather than it just with everything going on, I don't think it's realistic. Would necessarily put a competitive bid in, but
the time is tight.
Yes.
Councillor Pennington?
Yes, I'm aware of several towns close to here, including Deal and Folkestone, are planning to bid.
Yeah.
And it's a shame in the sense that we didn't think of clubbing together, maybe having a bid by Sandwich Deal or something. But the time is now really tight to put together a coherent bid, and I'm certainly, if it's not possible this time, I'll certainly flag it as something we might try for in future.
Next year. Councillor
I was
Morehouse?
going to ask if this is an annual thing, we should
Yes.
get ourselves ready to be,
Yes.
because I think we've got a very strong
Certainly
case
is for
here.
the city of Berkshire, I think.
But, no,
I think
the
it depends on
town-
government pots of funding, doesn't it, really?
Yes. Councillor Chipper, you had your...
So it's the opportunity is really being offered to partnerships. So it's, if Sandwich Town Council wants to quickly rush a form in, that is not going to be successful, and I don't think we would have capacity to do within 2 weeks of this. What we're looking for is towns that have a partnership approach of a programme that they want to put forward to get funding for. That actually needs time, it needs intelligence, it needs investigation, it needs formulating. So what I'm not sure about whether this is a repeated event, and if it is, then maybe it's something that we should make sure is flagged up. But you would want to look at other organisations such as Town Team to be involved in it. But, you know, this should be a joined up approach. It's not for a town council, particularly a small one, to say here's our bid within 2 weeks. It's just not feasible.
So I
Mrs.
just saw it and thought it was something we should have on as an agenda item. I didn't imagine that we would be in a position to do anything about it for now,
Yes.
because I think these other towns have been working on it for some time from what I could gather.
Yes.
So I just think we should flag it so that
Yes.
we start thinking
Is it
what,
repeated?
if it does get repeated, and one hopes it does, what should we be doing, and can we then apply, because it is a lot of money, and for some of the things that, you know, you want to do, and there is so much culture in Sandwich, but it's where you take it, yeah.
So at the moment, can we just mark this as noted?
Well, time is due type for an application this year.
Yes, I would agree, yes.
Yeah,
So-
and this is a long-term thing. This is 2020, so this is the 2028 competition.
Yeah,
So this is a very long lead-in.
yeah,
So you can't just put a bid in and just expect to get 50 grand back. It's just, there's going to be layers of analysis. And,
So we'll note it for next year,
Is
next
this,
administration.
is this for 2028?
2028.
So we need to find out if they're doing this to repeat in 2029.
Yeah.
Get ourselves ready for a bid next year.
Right, okay then, so can I have somebody to propose that we note it for now, councillor Morehouse, and second, councillor Pennington, and we vote on that, and that is unanimous, thank you very much. And August bank holiday bookings for the Guildhall, members to consider priority bookings for August bank holiday. And now, do we have that as,
There's no report, but I know Councillor Morehouse wants to talk.
and councillor Morehouse?
Yeah, so this has come about as a result of last summer's Sandwich Festival over August bank holiday, when the Guildhall Forecourt was booked by a commercial organisation and it brought a lot of visitors to the town. Following that, a smaller organisation, I believe, put in a tentative or maybe even a more firm application to have the Guildhall Forecourt for a very small event that doesn't really bring many people into the town. And the theory is that as Sandwich Town Council was the protagonist for the Sandwich Festival back in the early 1990s, predominantly from Councillor Sneller and Councillor Perry, the late Councillor Perry, that it would be wise for Sandwich community events to have first refusal on events on the Guildhall Forecourt for the events. So we're pretty much sure about what the dates are. We do know that the Sandwich Community Lights, for instance, is on adjacent to the first Sunday of Advent. We do know that the Sandwich Festival is over the August Bank Holiday weekend. We do know that the Folk and Ale Festival is on the first weekend in July. And as a rule, although there was an exception last year, the weekend is in the second weekend of June. So the proposal that I would put forward is that Sandwich should offer first refusal on the Guildhall forecourt to the events, especially with these events putting in bids for the Mannix Fund. So if we're supporting bid events financially, then we should also support them in offering space. Yes.
Any comments on this? Councillor Chuka.
I suppose my only slight caveat to it is not finding the council in a position where it might be disadvantaged that an event doesn't actually happen. So it needs to be carefully handled. So for example, there have been examples in the past where community events have not really stepped up to properly follow the process in terms of timings, etc. particularly. We can't have town council blocking out a weekend knowing there are other competitors, and then we lose a booking opportunity. So that's one aspect. And then the second thing, I suppose, it depends which lens you look down. I know there was a particular situation that has occurred recently, and I'm sure from another lens, there will be an argument that that event was very important. So I'm just, you know, the council shouldn't really jump on the back. And I know to your point about it being established 40 years ago, 30 years ago by previous administration. I think we have to be fair, we have to be seen to be fair, and we have to be seen that we don't prejudice any applicants. But I recognise there are certain events that are commonly accepted as part of our calendar of events for the town. So as long as it's a proper relationship and properly all parties step up to do what they need to do, then I'm not against it.
Yeah, Councillor Ripley.
Well, I would have thought that if one of the events, the normal, year in, year out events doesn't take place, and that would be known sufficiently in advance, that any other events that might be proposed could take their place. So I don't perceive that as a problem.
Well, we have got an example this year because the 40s isn't going ahead.
Yes.
Sorry. And that's been known.
That was announced at the previous 40s, so there was a full year ahead.
But I just go back to the point that there are examples that I'm very aware of where a commonly accepted event was not properly booked by the organisers. So we can't have the staff, and there are examples where staff were run ragged, trying to get bookings through the door. And that is not acceptable from a council perspective. So we shouldn't have time wasted by staff, as I know happened, trying to get bookings sorted. So if the relationship is mature and adult, that's fine.
The clerk or the sort of the Guildhall team, the Guildhall forecourt team, could develop a bookings policy, which lays out the rules of this is what we expect, and if you don't conform to this, then you know, it's open.
So risk.
That could be added to the website, couldn't it?
In terms of this and this meeting, do you want to propose anything, or are we just at the moment discussing it in that, as Town Clerk has commented, they can look at the booking process?
Booking process, I think, is the key element of it.
Right. In that case, can we?
And also giving the Guildhall sufficient notice.
Yeah.
So I can't see a reason why on the 1st of January or even before that you would give the town clerk, these are the dates we're holding the festival next year. Can you please reserve the Guildhall forecourt for these events?
Yeah, but in the event that another organisation steps in a year, giving a year's notice or two years notice, and said we want it. For example, I'm looking at my event. I'm looking at doing it next year. I've made that very clear. So somebody comes in and says, well, actually, we're going to get in with DDC beforehand, and that upsets things. So I should be booking it now, of course, to be aware. But should I have to do that? I don't know. I mean, that's just I'm just throwing that in the air, really. So should, for example, Folk and Ale think somebody might take that forecourt, we need to book it this year, next year, 3 years' time, just in case. But Carol, Councillor.
Sorry, when you had a formal booking system, surely you could ask for deposits.
We do ask for deposits.
But do you get the deposits from people like the Folk and Ale? I mean, so it's all right sort of saying we're going to book it, but I think Councillor Suker's saying, but then you get let down and you're trying to then fill those gaps. But at least if you've got a deposit, you've got something to start on.
And that is the issue. So, and I think it was before the current town clerk was here. There was a well-known event that's community-based. The deposit just wasn't forthcoming, despite umpteen chases, and it was right at the last minute it was sorted. So this is about having a mature adult relationship. As long as both sides do what they should do, then that's fine. The one easy way to facilitate this is you actually have an agreed, so where the events have set weekends, you've already mentioned some of those, that should be a list that's held by the staff. So they know that on the first weekend of a certain month, it is always X event. So if then somebody else comes in, then they should clarify with those organisers whether they are intending to do it. Yeah. And the guidance obviously will exist that you need to give your deposit 3 months in advance or whatever it is. They still have to do that as well. Yeah. But there are a couple of easy steps to avoid what's happened recently.
Yes.
And that'll be part of the response.
Yeah, definitely a proposal, what he said. Sorry, Mr. Garrett.
In my experience of running big events, venues as well, no one's booked until they pay a deposit.
Yes, I agree.
And even if it's something that happens every year, you ring them up and say, I want a deposit now. And the deposit should be substantial enough that if they cancel, it's profitable for you. Because you shouldn't say 200 quid for a £5,000 event. You're only going to get £200. You probably spend a lot more money on staff and everything, starting to arrange things for the Guildhall. So it should be it's a serious amount of money, like £2,000 if it's a big event. Obviously, you've got to do your own costings like that. So even if I flip it the other way, things I've booked here for age concern this year, I've booked and paid for straight away. So I want it done, out of the way, booked, signed and paid for.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it should be with anything like that.
And of course, if the staff have that list, if they're taking bookings for weddings, they can at least say, do you realise this is happening at the same time? Do we want to propose an action for this, or do we just want to note it at the moment?
I propose that we have formulate a bookings policy.
Have a bookings policy. So,
and I there's a separate action I would ask, and if Councillor Morehouse can take us back to SCEA, that the list of known events at particular times, ones that don't flex, you can provide that list to the town clerk and the team every second Saturday of whatever month is this event every year.
I mean, how far in advance would anyone be allowed to book events? Because you could theoretically book every
well, I think if
it's on the list
for a year, so that year, and it's repeated the next year and the next year, and all it would be is a case of this person wants to book at the same time. They check with SCEA. Right. So can we now an action, or are we just going to note this? I think an action to.
It's proposed that officers should develop a Guildhall booking policy which takes notice of regular community events.
Brilliant. Let's have an action on that then. So can the proposal? Councillor Pennington proposing. Thank you. Seconder.
We do have a booking policy, so it's about amending it, not
amending the booking policy.
Yeah.
to take note of
Should take notice.
regular
Yeah.
events, regular town focused events.
And I will furnish the town clerk with
The
those.
significant events that the town has each year.
Yeah.
As provided by SCA.
Yes, yes. So are you going to vote on this?
No, I said I would.
Oh, no, you weren't going to vote, so.
So it's proposed councillor Pennington. Who seconded?
Seconded was councillor Tomlins. And we have 5 votes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Moving on, Cinque Port's poster, to receive a report on the Cinque Post poster and to consider stock photography. I'm looking at councillor Ripley here because you have that on there. I know nothing of the Cinque Port's poster beyond what has been sent.
Which is there.
Yeah. And can somebody lead on this who knows more about the Cinque Port poster than I do?
I know nothing about it.
Does anybody know anything about
Well,
the
I
Cinque
just,
Port?
I got this email from them saying that they are creating this poster about the Cinque Ports. And that could we please send them a photograph to be included on this poster? And there is a photograph there, but is that the photograph we want to use? And then I sort of I went to the to see the information officer, and she said, well, we don't actually really have any stock photography, which seems like a bit of an oversight that the town doesn't have 10 approved photographs that are used in publicity material. So that rather than me going, oh, I don't know, this is the photograph the council wants, that we've got 10 that everyone said, these are good ones, and then the officers can just get on and send them out and we don't have to bother you. So I was thinking that it would be a good plan to find someone, whether we pay someone or we have a competition or I don't know, if anybody has a cousin, sister's, nephew, aunt who's a fabulous local photographer who could create a selection, a bank of photography that could be used in the magazine, for promotional stuff, for tourism stuff, the website. Just seems a bit of a blank.
Well, David Silk might be the person
That's
to
exactly who I was
ask,
thinking of.
because he is a photographer.
Yes.
He lectures on it, and
Yes.
and he's, you know, he's a good photographer, and he does take super photos.
Yes.
He does them, and he creates posters for us as well. So, and he's on holiday at the moment, so he won't be back till
Would
about the night.
It's giving us the copyright. We have some photographs which are we are used, but we don't have a copyright for them. But we have to credit the people. We just need photographs that we own.
Yes.
So it's whether or not David Silk would be prepared to do it on those terms.
I'm sure he would, don't you?
Yes, well, I'm happy to ask him because we are chums, so to speak. I would say if we can just action for me to speak to David Silk with regards to taking photographs around Sandwich, which are not credited to him,
No.
which are
Copyright free.
copyright free. So essentially anybody can use.
Yeah.
Not restricted to the council, anybody can use.
Well, the council would use.
The council would use.
Yeah, there would be the council's photos.
Right, so copyright for the council.
That's the point.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to do that. So I'll propose that I speak to David Silk. Seconded by councillor Morehouse. And
Are we happy with that photograph from that poster?
I think it's great.
I think so. It's clear.
Yes.
It's Sandwich.
Okay. Well, that's easy then.
And Items for information only, matters for the March 2025 meeting, anything that we need to note? We've almost finished.
We've almost gone past it.
Don't we go through that again? Oh, yes, March 2026. God, yeah. Yeah.
Once was enough.
Actually,
It's June.
2026, June 2026. If there's anything that anybody thinks that should be on the agenda for the next meeting, speak now or have a hold of.
Sorry,
Mrs. George.
could we tentatively put in a planters for the Guildhall forecourts? I think if some gentlemen are able to produce them, then we need to put in a formal request to you and show you what we're anticipating doing.
Yeah, so as an agenda item, but that's.
May I just say that I can just imagine the reaction of some people downstairs is that we've got the impact of having fixed planters on forecourt that can't be moved and will impact on the market and the location of certain items.
Can I assure you that we had a discussion with the former town clerk about 3, maybe 4 planters that would be completely away, would not interfere with anything that was, and they were originally proposed under the scheme for the development, and they just ran out of money because we found out. But no, we would show you where, and I think there was some agreement as to exactly where they could be placed, so that it didn't interfere with any sort of any of the markets or any tents that went up. So
Okay, is this a June discussion?
well,
Because that
I
seems a bit late.
think it possibly has to be now, but
Yeah.
we would try to get them, but I need to find the right pots and the right price and.
Yeah, because this isn't in any other business.
Yeah,
Right, so that's an
and if
agenda
I
item.
can't do it, I will
Or
let you know.
potentially speak independently
Yeah.
prior to that.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much. Date and time of next meeting to be confirmed at annual town council meeting, ATCM, Wednesday which is, or otherwise Wednesday the 10th of June 2026 at 6:30 p.m. And at the moment we can say meeting finished, and thank you very, very much. Don't know what time it is. It just seems to have raced past.
I don't think we will see.